Good afternoon. Good to see you guys. Today is Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. It's 4:01 p.m. We're in the city chambers, and I call Road and Drainage District regular meeting to order. Those present are our new Deputy City Clerk, Heather Taylor, our City Clerk, Katie Pito, Commissioner Jill Luke, Vice Mayor Debbie McDowell, myself, Mayor Hanks, Commissioner Vanessa Carasone, Commissioner Jim Rich, City Attorney Amber Slayton, City Manager Peter Lear, Chief of Police Todd Garrison, Fire Chief Scott Titus. We got staff and some fantastic faces out here, so we're ready to get started. But that was almost a whole meeting within itself. If you have a public comment, please fill out the public comment card right over here by the police officer, and he will get that up here to us. If you have your cell phones, please turn those off and put them on silent, and we're going to get started. So if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and stand for a moment of silence, led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Luke, if she does not mind.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Vice Mayor McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Carasone. Take the vote.
I got no voting going on over here.
You voted no to approve the agenda?
We're out of here.
I have no voting.
It's recycle. Yeah.
Are you good?
Yep.
Hit recycle.
Recycle.
Because I saw Frankie Rama here.
That passed unanimously. Moving on, do we have any public comment, Vice Mayor?
I don't have any cards, no, sir.
Okay, no public comment. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Do I have any commissioners that wish to pull anything from this consent agenda? Nope. If I can get a motion to approve it. So moved by Commissioner Carasone.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor McDowell. Vote.
No. Are we ready to vote? I'm sorry.
Yep, ready to vote. That passes unanimously. You know, I noticed on this thing, it says mover. Vanessa said seconder. Here, I think it should say mover and shaker. Sorry, squirrel.
Can't even get it to print right. You really want to go there?
All right, we're going to move on to general business. We have item A, endorsement of proposed project funding to the Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization in a prioritized order. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. You pretty much summed that up in the fact that these are the projects that we'll be submitting to the Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the key thing, as I told you all in agenda briefings, is the order matters. These are a prioritized list. It's not just, these are our top 10. These are our top 10 in top 10 order 1 through 10. But so I wanted to point that out. If staff is here to answer any questions if you have them on what projects are on here, but they're in the backup as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Wonderful. Ms. Katie, my iPad does not give me the opportunity to see people. It's showing me as it's just. Okay, let me refresh and see if it does. There it is. Okay, so we have questions. We'll keep those around 8 minutes. Commissioner Carasone.
So you're saying that the Price Boulevard is the priority one? Find it. Here we go.
Looking real quick for it on my own.
Good afternoon. For the record, Ben Newman, Public Works. The top priority, as it was last year, was the I-75 Yorkshire interchange. And that involves no MPO funding, strictly by the feds. But it is our top priority to reinforce to the MPO and the State Department of Transportation the importance of this interchange to us.
I guess while I believe it's important, I don't believe that it should be priority number one. I think that if we're going to talk priority number one, it should be Price Boulevard, River Road. And in fact, where are we with the fact that we just got through the MPO, that list was given to the MPO and essentially to the state a month ago, 2 months ago, without us even having a meeting during that time.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That
Yeah.
was the tentative list given to the MPO board. And it just so happened that due to the shortcutting of the process, staff did not have the information we needed to fill out the project forms. And our deadline to the MPO staff was, I think, the 18th of December, which we
Right.
did. So
And you
shortly
used these.
thereafter, and we had not had time from when we had the forms to fill out for each project application to get it to the Road and Drainage District or the City Commission before it was submitted on December 18th to the MPO staff.
Okay, so again, here's my problem. We have already submitted these plans to the MPO as our priorities. However, I believe this commission has prioritized in a completely different manner than what's being seen on here. So the question is, how do we fix that?
Well, our plan is to try to fix it the next go-around. As I said, this...
next year.
No.
Okay. When is it?
I can help. Go ahead, Sherry. Go ahead.
Well, Jerry Traverso, Engineering Division Manager. The I-75 is not competing for MPO funds. That's a separate animal in its own. So we put it as priority number one because we want the blessing from the MPO, so it looks good in front of the Federal Highway Administration, which is the ones that approve and fund this type of projects. So we can put it number one, and it can be number one, but for MPM funding purposes, MPO is not going to give us a dime for that interchange.
Well, what I can tell you is by going and lobbying for this funding through the state and the federal government, the number one thing they say is, it's not your number one on your priority list. Why should we care what happens on Price Boulevard?
Commissioner, if I may, for the record, Juliana Belia, Public Works Director. In December of each year, we have to lock in the projects we're requesting MPO funding for, and these are all projects we had discussed in years prior with the Commission. Today, the Commission can change the prioritized order of the projects. And the first two, numbers 1 and 2, the interchange at Yorkshire Street and the River Road widening, we're merely supporting because there's other funding sources. But our first project on our list is the Price Boulevard Macketchee Creek Bridge replacement. That is our number one recommended, staff recommended. But the Commission today can change the order of the various projects. It's just that we had to lock in the projects by December 18th.
So this is not in order then?
It's in our recommended order, but the Commission can change the order today at the meeting.
Oh my God, is anyone else confused? Because
Yeah,
I just heard that Price Boulevard, Myakkahatchee is our number one priority.
No.
That's what staff
That is
is
the staff
recommending.
recommended
That's a staff
number one.
recommendation for number one only. The
This is
staff
for you all
recommendation.
to prioritize what the commission order is, and we will submit that, and it will be reprioritized. So if you guys were to say, take number 8 and make it number 1, we will resubmit that, and that will be the city's number 1 priority.
Correct.
Okay, but again, it doesn't get submitted until December of 2019.
No. By December 18th of each year, or thereabouts, we have to put in the projects that we're requesting funding for. And the prioritized order will be confirmed by commission in January, and that's what we're doing today.
Okay,
This is only our recommendations of the order, but the projects were already pre-discussed with commission at various meetings, and some were carries over from last year. But these will go forth immediately to MPO. In the order, commission approves them today.
Okay, I guess what my problem is from the email I got from the MPO staff was
Okay.
that this is a done deal, that the state has already approved the priority list and that we won't see it again until next year in December. And we didn't even have an MPO
No.
meeting,
No, that's
so
not correct, right?
that's
It
what my
has
concern
gone,
is.
you're absolutely correct. The projects had gone, the projects were rated by MPO staff and FDOT according to the performance measures that we have to use, and that list with the ratings or rankings of the project was submitted to the MPO board. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
We still have to submit the commission's prioritized list to the MPO staff.
For next year.
No.
Well,
No,
that's for this year.
This year.
That's still part of our process. We have to submit a prioritized list approved by the city commission.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is how do we fix the fact that our prioritized list will not measure up to what MPO has already previously approved prior to this meeting?
I don't have an answer for that. I mean, as I said before, by the time we've got the information we needed to prepare the project applications and submit them at the December 18th deadline, shortly thereafter, MPO staff and FDOT staff
That's right.
ranked the projects and then submitted them to the MPO board. Before we had the
Before we had
chance,
an approval.
before we had the chance to bring it to you for prioritization.
But the ranking of MPO is independent of our
Huh?
priority.
Well, we
The way
submit
that-
the-
Not according to anyone I speak with when we try to get funding. They are all looking at this priority on the MPO list. And if you look on the major MPO list, River Road is like, I don't know, 14? I mean, I would think countywide, that's a priority and should be moved up to number 2. So, at the very least, number 2. You know what I mean? So, this is something, and I get that we're not asking for money from the MPO for the interchange. However, they are looking at it, I promise you.
So when we submit it to them, we will ask, I mean, what we need from you all is a prioritization. We will submit it to them and ask them at that point in time, how does this get updated with the state since this prioritization, because this is the process we were supposed to follow anyway, is we're supposed to send them all of our projects and then the prioritization of which comes through. So we'll get with them and say, how do you update this? Because right now, we're following their process of what they want us to do. Now, if they're
I've
telling
never
you,
seen this before, is what my problem is. I have never seen it come before us to look at our priorities in December. We usually have these priorities ironed out by October.
As I said,
So this is the first
this
time I've ever
process
seen this.
through the MPO staff has been shortened at least a couple months
Doesn't change the form.
due to FDOT's request.
Okay.
They want to try to get the projects in sooner, but it creates a problem for staff, scheduling to try to get everything in the order it should be done. And we did not simply have the chance to do that this time around.
Well, then, 2 words, special meeting. Because this is a priority.
Absolutely.
No, I'm done, I'm sorry.
Commissioner McDowell?
So based on the conversation we just had with Commissioner Carusone and her question, am I correct in understanding that this time the process was staff submitted an application for each project and gave a list of priority? Then the state took those application and the priority that staff recommended and then rearranged them for their priority? And now you're coming for commission priority?
What they did was use performance criteria to rank each project, and they assigned those numerical values.
Based on what staff's recommendation was, correct?
It was primarily based on a lot of social economic data, traffic, congestion, things of that nature, strictly
Data.
objective.
Whether it's shovel-ready or not,
which is not based on the
Matching
prioritization that we have
funds.
them listed. It's based on criteria that they evaluate projects on,
There's the criteria.
not on the prioritization list of which one's first, second, third, or fourth.
So based on this agenda item, and you have listed Price Boulevard, Myakkahatchee Creek Bridge, is that the number one application that staff suggested?
Yes, and through communication with MPO staff, they thought that, we separated the bridge this year from the roadway widening. And they felt that the bridge project, due to, safety criteria, would stand a better chance of getting a higher ranking. So that's what we did, and that's why it's higher. The bridge was higher on the priority list than the widening, albeit when the ranking came out, it was the opposite. The road widening ranked higher than the bridge.
And if I may, the MPO staff actually came down to our office at their request and sat down with us, went over the project, and such as Ben had mentioned, that was one of their recommendations, was to separate it out because there's additional funding for the bridge, rather than combine the bridge with the roadway widening.
So in the agenda backup materials are 10 different applications. Are they listed in the order of a priority as they are listed on the agenda backup materials?
Yes, ma'am.
And who determined this priority?
Well, we did, based upon the priority that the city commission approved last year through the same process. The I-75 Yorkshire was your number one priority.
But Yorkshire is
River
number
Road
10.
was number two, then the price widening.
I'm confused. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Your first one is the Myakkahatchee Creek Bridge, and then the last one is Yorkshire.
Commissioner, the last one of Yorkshire is for the widening of it, that of the roadway. The actual number one is for the interchange. It's two different projects.
I don't see an
She's here.
interchange on this list.
Hold on, I think the confusion's coming is, your question was, are the applications listed in a backup material? What, the answer that was given was actually, are they the listing in the staff summary? The order of the attachments is not necessarily the correct order. The staff summary is what you're looking for.
Yes, and that's because we did not have to submit a funding application for the Yorkshire I-75 interchange or for River Road, because as I said before, those don't go, the Yorkshire I-75 interchange does not go through the MPO process, therefore there's no funding application needed for it. It's simply your reinforcement of its importance to the city. And the River Road widening project is a county project. They submit the funding application for that.
So in the backup materials on the legislative text, it says here, I-75 interchange Yorkshire. Then it goes to River Road widening from 41 to 75.
Correct.
And then Price Boulevard from Sumter to Northport High School. And then Biscayne,
Oh, you skipped number 3, which was the bridge.
The bridge.
Over Myakkahatchee Creek on Price Boulevard.
okay, Price Boulevard widening project Sumter to Northport High School, Heron Creek Middle School. There's no bridge listed on.
Number 3, one I'm looking at, the back of I'm looking at
Number
says-
3 on page
number-
2.
Number 3 says Price Boulevard, Myakkahatchee Creek Bridge replacement. Number
Okay,
4.
and I'm on page 1, so. This could have been a lot less confusing, guys.
They're numbered. It says right on it, staff
see it.
recommends endorsement of the city commission of the following projects by the MPO in the prioritized order list below.
Okay, and who came up with this prioritized list?
Staff did.
Staff did, thank you.
We make a recommendation, then you guys make a decision of whether you like it or not, and then we can change it.
And this list went already to the MPO, and FDOT already took a look at it.
But not
The
staff's
the
list.
project funding applications went to the MPO staff. We did not submit a prioritized list.
So you just
ourselves.
sent them
That's-
the applications?
That's for the commission to endorse. We have a recommended prioritization list here, but you, the city commission, are the ones that need to endorse the prioritized list. And then we send these meeting minutes with the endorsement of the priority list from commission to the MPO staff. That's part of the application process.
Okay, so you guys just sent an application for each one of these projects, no priorities. Is that correct?
Those were due to the deadline of December 18th, we had to submit the project applications.
And then FDOT and the state then ranked them whatever their criteria that they followed.
Based on the
So
performance
now you're
criteria.
looking for commission direction,
On the
even
priorities.
though state's
Endorsing
already
it.
decided what the priority is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because it says no changes to the tentative work program resulted from these series of public hearings, which I don't know what public hearings they're talking about because
Okay. I do have a couple questions.
by the way, you can, I'm sorry, let me just clarify, and I forward you the email. Please provide any written requests for changes by 5 PM on Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. There's your answer. We're good to go.
All right. So, you guys had put in an application for bicycle lanes on Ponce de Leon. And it appears to be, bicycle lanes appear to be 5, 6, 7,
Oh,
I think 8, I'm not sure. So bicycle lanes are a huge priority based on the applications that were submitted. And in my opinion, bicycle lanes are at the very bottom of the list because sidewalks are much more important. Sidewalks are used, or multimodal paths are used more regularly for pedestrians instead of the bikers. For some reason, MPO really likes bike lanes, and I'm just over it.
I think that's a state thing, yeah.
I noticed when you submitted in the applications for Price Boulevard, widening of Price Boulevard at various segments, you guys have a typical roadway that was not approved from Sumter to Toledo Blade. You have an old picture with a median with trees in it. And if this was an application that was going to the state, I would have thought that the picture would be more accurate because that is not what we approved for a segment of Price. Is there a reason that it doesn't show the correct approved roadway from Sumter to Toledo Blade?
Well, these projects, project applications we submit have not gone through any phase of project development. Therefore, through the preliminary design and environmental phase and the design phase, the typical roadway cross-section can be changed.
Well,
Right now, at this point in time, the projects have not gone through, have not started at any phase of design.
I understand that. My concern is we have approved a typical roadway of a 5-lane, and that should have been submitted, so that way then it doesn't appear that we're changing the design of Price Boulevard depending on where it's located. That's what I'm seeing.
Yes, we can.
We will update
Typically,
the
we
picture.
design a project, it's called context-sensitive design based on the neighborhood it's going through. So because we have a 5-lane section right now on Price Boulevard from Sumter to Toledo Blade does not necessarily mean that will continue all the way through. It could. But take, for example, from Sumter to the high school and middle school, there are no single-family homes fronting Price Boulevard through that segment, so the need for a dual left turn lane, don't see the need for a dual left turn lane, like we have between Sumter and Toledo Blade.
Vice
But
Mayor,
again,
we can update the picture. Along with, when we send in our prioritized list, we will update the picture.
Vice Mayor, let me kind of see if anybody else has anything
Fine.
else, and then I'll come
I
back.
wanted to jump on something on the
Cameras?
bike lanes, but
Do you have anything? Commissioner Luke, do you have something? Yeah. And I'll come back to you, and I'll come back to
okay.
you.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. Do you know, did the MPO data show any of the projects that you submitted on their rankings? I mean,
Yes.
is there some way for us to find out how they ranked these projects that were submitted?
I just sent city manager a copy of the email. I thought that everybody got it, but I guess not.
But
it
you sit on
shows-
the MPO board, correct? That's why you're getting it and we're not. So maybe the city manager can distribute that to the rest of us?
Yeah, it didn't come through.
That way we can see that. And just to be clear, that Myakka Hatchie Creek Bridge, that is the one over going toward the high school, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay. I'm not seeing anything on this list about the widening of Price from Sumter to Toledo Blade. Is that not something we're trying to get any funds from the MPO from?
No, it is not.
May I ask why?
Well, when we first started this particular project between Sumter and Toledo Blade, the decision at the time was we wanted to forge ahead with the design rather than apply for funding through the MPO, which if it did get approved, the first phase, and it would have to go through the PD&E phase before design, the first phase would be in the 5th year of FDOT's 5-year work program, and that's for the PD&E, the preliminary development and environmental phase. And
So
then after that phase is completed, which is probably a 2-year time frame, then the design phase would start, and it would have to be another phase funded through the MPO, and land acquisition, if any was needed, and that includes pond sites, would have to comply with state and federal acquisition guidelines. And
So basically,
and then once
you
that
have to make
process is
these,
done, probably another 2 years, then the construction phase could start. So based upon those timelines and all of the stipulations and regulations that go along with the state and federal funding, we thought it would, and the cost increase to comply with those additional regulations and requirements of the state and federal governments, that we needed Price Boulevard widened sooner than.
It also adds to the construction costs for the projects, so it would have really increased the cost of this project, not to mention that the additional time it would take to construct it.
so my understanding that before going to design, purchasing a property and stuff like that, you have to submit these first?
Otherwise, you run the risk of jeopardizing the grant due to non-compliance with the state and federal guidelines.
And so in our haste to get this portion of Price Boulevard up to standard, we missed our opportunity to receive MPO funding? Is that,
Not at all.
was that a true statement?
Well, we've acquired 6 of 16 pond sites so far without complying with the state and federal acquisition guidelines.
Without,
Without.
we purchased them without Swiftmud knowing about them?
No, they have different requirements, different hoops you have to jump through when you want to use their funding.
Gotcha.
So in order to not have to jump through their hoops, we went ahead, we're moving forward with a project that's been identified as a priority. If you want to jump through those hoops, you need to decide that from the very beginning, and knowing full well that it will cost you more and take you longer to do.
Okay, that explained it to me. Thank you very much. Going back to the bike lanes, how do you, is the sidewalk portion something that we would have to do? Does the MPO also fund sidewalks? Or would we have to build sidewalks ourselves if they approved the bike lanes?
No, we could apply for sidewalk projects as well.
Could, but we did not?
No, we have not.
And I think that wraps up my questions. Thank you.
We'll go through our second round here, so a couple more minutes. Commissioner Carasone.
Yeah, just real quickly about the Price to Toledo Blade widening. First of all, I do not remember us discussing the priorities last year
No, I don't.
at all. So I think that what happened is the priorities from the previous year were just directly carried over. And I noticed that because when I was on the board. And then this year, I believe they thought the same thing. So I'm not sure where this all got confused, but we have not had a full-on discussion about priorities because personally, lighting beautification, changing the 41 corridor lights to green, city center green, would be something that MPO could help us with in funding because they're the ones who gave us the lighting money in the first place for a portion of it. So, you know, that could have been priority number 24, but at least it's on the list. And usually 9 times out of 10, it just has to be on the list. In order for you to go forward with that larger hoop, per se, and get funding for a specific source, that's when you get into that PD&E study, because we went through this on Sumter. So I'm sorry, but I agree with Commissioner Luke that, you know, not seeing Toledo Blade to Orlando, or did you talk about Toledo Blade from Sumter? You were talking Toledo from Sumter.
Toledo Blade,
Okay.
yes.
I can understand that, but Toledo from Orlando, is that on, I didn't see that. So maybe that
It's on
is
there.
something that could be put on there as a priority.
It's on there.
It's on
It
there.
is, it's broken.
Yes,
It's
yes,
broken
ma'am.
into various
We've got it
segments.
broken into about 4 different segments.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
I see Panacea,
Yes, ma'am.
Haberlin, I see, not just one.
No, ma'am.
We only broke it in 3 or something like that.
Yeah, there's
I
They
see
asked
what you're
us-
4
saying.
different
yeah.
sections.
Okay, and then, all right, because that makes sense, you know, doing the Toledo and forward. The, again, I would have liked to see the lighting on 41, city, you know, to go back to our standards, and we haven't gotten the actual physical numbers on that yet. I know that the commission had asked for that, but I think that would be a worthy project of putting at the very bottom, but still to be on there.
Can I ask for your clarification on that exactly? When you say lighting, you're talking about the multi-use trail that's under construction now, the lighting along there, as we did 2 segments from Biscayne to Pan American, I think in 2015, and then from Bolander Terrace to Northport Boulevard, the continuation of those lights along the, are you talking about the roadway lighting? Or
Either the continuation of those lights or to replace the current lights that are now the concrete lights that used to be city center green and steel.
You're talking about the traffic signals. Yes, ma'am.
Well, and.
And the
I
street
think
lights?
The lighting used to be green too. They were the metal, no?
I'm in 41.
On 41. Pete, you would remember, you'd hung the flags.
I can't remember if they were
No.
green or not.
Okay.
Because the ones
anyways.
we normally did were the aluminum ones, and they were just.
Aluminum or the street lights.
It's aluminum.
Yeah, your traffic
aluminum.
signals.
So either to continue, you know what I mean, try to find some cohesiveness to US 41 so that it continues down, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But that would be one thing. And then the bike lanes that you talked about, I think that's a state deal. I think the state's really pushing for bike lanes, and it's all part of this new safety thing. So in order to kind of reach a little higher up in the number list, you have
Rather
to
than the
have bike
sidewalks, which are
lanes
less
in there,
expensive
right?
for the bigger money, and to also accommodate safety for bicyclists.
I think that's
You're
what
correct.
yeah, it's kind of like, it gives you a little leg up. But one thing I want to tell you about is that the bike lanes on the East Coast, they started doing something different. They're coloring them green. And it is super cool. And I think that we really need to look into that because it allows people to see it a lot easier. And wouldn't it be cool if they too were city center green?
Right.
I'm done.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this list that city manager just emailed us. Looking at the first one, it says Sarasota Summary of Changes Tentative Work Program. Is that the priorities from FDOT and MPO?
When I have it in a big thing.
And honestly, Vice Mayor, I just got this as well.
Yeah, that's the one I
That's the
sent you.
the Commissioner Carasone just forwarded it to us, so I have not looked at this either.
Okay, so maybe Commissioner?
Yes, this is what was sent off from MPO to the district secretary, and that this is their final tentative 5-year work program, which it coincides with our priority list.
But I hate to tell you, just giving it a cursory glance without going through every single one, not one of our project applications we submitted is on this list.
Thank you.
Not one. So it's like we're wasting our time and energy right now talking about this because they've already made up their mind, for lack of another term, as to what they're funding for the next 5 years. And we've never even had a discussion about it, and not one of our projects are on here. I'm completely confused to this whole thing.
Well, this is a 5-year plan.
Okay?
What you're looking for is beyond the 5-year?
No, it's supposed to be for this year, I
I'm not
thought.
sure what list you're looking at. There was a list,
It's for fiscal year 20 to 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one. There's another one.
It says your Florida Department of Transportation 5-year transportation program, fiscal year 20 through fiscal year 2024. Summary of additions, reschedules, and deletions, Sarasota County. So the applications we submit, I shouldn't say we, staff submitted
yeah.
aren't even on this list.
Correct.
Zero.
This might be for the Sarasota County also, too, though.
Well, they
not
have
any
Northport,
yet.
well, hold up, they have Northport on here for traffic signals.
Most of them.
This is
Yeah,
all the
in many cases,
representatives,
it's-
and they
That
submit
was
their
going in that
projects.
direction.
And then
Yeah.
they determine what it is and how they should be prioritized.
Northport
and then the
traffic
list-
signals reimbursement gets $52,000 in 23-24.
Changes.
But I do believe the county does handle the majority of
It's
our
not the final.
signals.
Prioritize list of
There's,
There's
State
another
does,
attachment there.
but that's not the point. The point is that we've gotten monies from this list / MPO funding in the past because we were on this list, and if we're not on
on
the
the list,
list,
we're not getting anything.
thank you.
Can-
On the other attachment, I'm just quickly going through the other attachment, it does have Biscayne Drive, the bike lane / sidewalk is on there.
Okay, are you
And that's a
talking about the
different year, right?
Sarasota tentative work program?
Yes.
The,
That's the list of the ranking of all projects submitted.
Bingo.
And there's like 50,
Is that in the backup? No, you just got
63
that.
projects. No,
Just got that.
You know what, though? The one you're looking at it says changes. I wonder if that's just the differences.
no, the first one that I was referring to has additions, deletions, and project order, I would assume, because the 5-year projects, each year, 5-year projects.
I think that's in their current work program. There was, I believe there was a list for each county, well, no, not each county, but there was a list of projects submitted to the MPO staff, and through their ranking by the performance measures, there's a list of like 63 projects.
It's the 5-year work plan.
Yeah, we're not on it.
No, that's just a list of projects submitted for funding this go-around.
But if we submit an application, I would think that we're looking for funding.
We need a helpline.
Yeah, I'm, what exactly do you want from us? Because it seems like it's a moot point.
I think we need to prioritize this.
We're looking for
what we've
the
got.
priorities.
And-
What order do you want these projects prioritized in?
And we can add or delete, correct?
No, because they've already
Just the
submitted the
projects that
application.
were submitted.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
can't
At a
do anything
previous-
other than what you,
Well, the previous meeting, you gave us a list, we discussed this in
No,
some respect, and you wanted more, you asked for more projects to be put on the list, which we did, and that were different segments of Price Boulevard from Toledo Blade to Orlando, plus the widening of Yorkshire from Hillsborough Boulevard to I-75.
when was this meeting?
March 6th of 2018. Most of these projects on this list are carryovers from the last year. And then in addition to that, we had on March 6th, the commission also directed staff to submit project funding applications to widen Price from Toledo Blade to Torrington and widen Yorkshire from Hillsborough to 75. Staff prepared applications from Price from Toledo Blade eastward into 3 segments. Orlando Boulevard, rather than Torrington, was designated as the southern terminus of the Price Boulevard widening project, as it has a functional classification more closely aligned with Price Boulevard and Charlotte County's road network of Veterans Boulevard, and is much better suited for this connection. So those were additions into last year's project that the commission asked us to proceed forward with. Now, when we sat down with the MPO staff, we went over all these projects, and that is when they recommended to us separating out the Price widening by the high school into 2 segments. They said you have other funding you can get on bridge funding. They said, so we recommend you're going to have a better chance of separating that out. So other than that, that's the only change we made.
And the bicycle lanes on Ponce de Leon, they suggested phasing that.
Yes.
Instead of going from Biscayne to Tropicare to smaller phases that were more fundable.
More fundable.
That makes sense.
Well, we can't fix yesterday, so let's move forward today. So how do we want to prioritize this, if we want to reprioritize this?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the bicycle lanes go at the very bottom. I don't want those to take a priority over anything over Price Boulevard. I mean, if they get a windfall of money, I don't want them thinking that we think bike lanes are more important than Price Boulevard. That's mine.
Huh?
I said, that's all mine. Try the rest of it.
All right, do
I think that, sorry.
I had the button pushed. Are you able to read
I
that?
can't see anything, it just stayed the same. It's not,
Okay, all right,
I think
thank
my
you.
screen locked up.
I know what you're saying.
I totally believe what Commissioner Carazone said about them having a priority toward the bicycle lanes and stuff because of safety and that. I see that probably being more of a priority than widening Price out the other direction until we get the first section completed. But I want to reiterate, I mean, we just got an email the other day from one of the citizens about having no sidewalks along this area that we're talking about on Ponce de Leon. And children are walking to the school bus and stuff, and there's no sidewalk. And so the bike lanes, the sidewalks where the children are gathering, to me is something that is and can be effective immediately without going through the full ramifications of everything for widening that other end of Price. Yes, the one going to the high school, you know, that's important, but they have that already sectioned off in there. But I think the safety of the kids is more important than widening Price out to Yorkshire. Thank you.
Okay. Let me take this public comment, and then we'll move on to see what kind of direction the commission wants to give. Ms. Fisher, haven't seen you in a while, so good to see you.
Oh, I've been around.
Oh, I know.
Nice to see you too. Thank
Haven't
you.
seen you during the meeting, so it's good to hear from you.
Thank you for time today.
Please state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nancy Fisher. I'm at 1038 North Step Street, just off Price Boulevard. I'm pleased to see that the widening of the East Price is being addressed before this area is fully built out. Hopefully, we can avert some of the problems that occurred during the redesign of Price between Toledo Blade and Sumter, and I'm hopeful of that. I do hope the landscaping that's talked about in the projects includes trees and native plants. And the only cost question I have is I couldn't really tell from the descriptions whether it included any kind of real property acquisition for stormwater storage. Is that something where we can expect an increased cost in Price between Sumter and Toledo Blade? It's almost like that's an add-on cost to the actual build out of the roadway. I do want to mention that between the high school and Sumter, multi-use path is extremely important in that area in particular because we're building the Aqua Center. In addition to the schools, you've got skinny lanes. They're only 11 feet wide. You've got distracted drivers, young drivers driving to and from the high school. You've got school buses. They're very wide. They take up that lane. You really don't want kids driving to the Aqua Center or to the high school or to school sharing the roadbed with traffic like that. So you really need to forget the sidewalks or forget the bike lanes in that area. Build a multi-use path to get the kids out of the roadway. And that's all I have to say. Just, you know, is there real property acquisition required for all those East Price segments? And I'll have more comments when we talk about the construction costs. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm trying to get
Formulate everything?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm trying to get from staff's recommendations, I'm trying to kind of formulate a priority list based off of kind of our conversation. So far, I've got number 2 being our number 1 priority, number 4 being our second priority, number 9 being our third.
Excuse.
See what I'm saying?
On number 2 for the River Road widening, we don't really have it's just our support. That's not it for our submission, that's for Sarasota County's submission. We're just showing that we were supporting that project. So we can't rank that one.
Down at the bottom as a priority? I mean, it's still a priority. I mean, it was always on
Yeah, we could put it at the bottom, sure.
It was always on
Sure.
our priority list.
Sure, we could put it at the bottom.
From 2002 and on.
Okay, we could put it at the bottom.
So change that to different, I gotcha, all right. That goes to the bottom.
So Price Boulevard from Sumter to the high school would be 1?
You got me all screwed up, hold on. Number 2.
Yeah, number 2 becomes 12.
Thank you. All right, so yes, number 4 is the Price Boulevard
So
widening
number
from
4 becomes
Sumter
number 1 then?
to the bus driveway at the high school. That would become number 1.
Okay.
Number 9, Price Boulevard widening Toledo to Panacea.
Would be what?
2.
No, we got to do the bridge.
Where is
The bridge is number 3. Between
agree.
Sumter and the high
Exactly.
school.
Your number 3 would be 2?
So number 3 would be 2. That's why I said I was trying to write this down as we were talking.
Conversation ended quicker.
Exactly.
And number
Okay.
9 would be 3.
I don't know. I think that maybe,
Well, that was the order you had.
yeah, I know.
Actually, I like the order that staff has it in.
Bus driveway, Biscayne Lane, oh, bicycle lanes, gotcha.
I'm actually
Which
good
one
with
was
it too,
that?
just moving 2 down to 12, since it's just a support item.
First 2 that they have listed are the support items. So swinging those down.
Yeah,
But
swinging
the
those down to
list-
the end and then just moving everything up.
Exactly.
What do you say about that? How you like them apples?
I guess that I would much rather see number 9 go, it doesn't matter. That's fine.
Let's swing 1 and 2 down to 11 and 12 and move everything up.
That's fine.
Is that good for you, Mr. Imich?
That'll work.
Yeah, I'll support this, but again, I am not in favor of these bicycle lanes having priority over Price Boulevard. Price Boulevard is, we're talking about 5 years out, if even then. If we don't keep Price Boulevard up at the very top of this radar, we're going to be in the same position we are right now with Sumter and Toledo Blade.
But it is
segment.
above the bike lanes. The
it's
section,
not.
yes, it is. What is now 1 and 2 is Price Boulevard
To the high
going
school.
toward the high school.
And I'm talking
Correct.
about east of Toledo Blade also needs to be a priority over bicycle lanes.
Well,
I think we need to put multimodal lanes applications in for next year for these areas as opposed to bicycle lanes. But that's a different conversation for next year.
Well, I completely support what you're saying, but unfortunately, we can't add anything.
I know, for next year, when we
So,
go to
yeah.
put in applications, I would like to see applications not for bike lanes, but for multimodal lanes, because pedestrians, to me, and the kids' safety going to and from school and these bus stops and stuff is a huge priority, not a bike lane.
I agree, but the problem is the state kind of sets those priorities. And if we turn around and say multimodal, and the state says, well, I'm sorry, but there's no funding for that.
Then we might get money for Price Boulevard.
I don't know about that.
If I can make mention of one other item, our line of thinking and in talking with the MPO, realistically, when we will be getting to the construction of the other sections of Price, it's, you're probably looking at close to 8-10 years. So in the meantime, by us moving them up on the priority ranking, when realistically, we're not going to be constructing them for that period of time, we're going to be losing out on these bicycle lanes.
Exactly.
That was our thought process in putting those prior to the other widening of the other segments of Price. That's the reason we did it in that fashion. I'm talking on the east end now, not the high school's portions. That was our line of thinking for that.
So let me clarify, because I'm trying to get a consensus here, moving
Yes,
1
yes,
and
sir.
2 to 11 and 12, and then basically moving the rest of them up. So 3 would be 1, 4 would be 2.
Yes, sir.
I have
1
a
through
yes
10.
from Emmerich, Carasone, myself, Commissioner McDowell.
Yep.
You need a motion?
Do you need a motion for this?
Yes,
You
sir.
do? All right.
Yes, sir.
then I have a consensus. Can I get a motion?
Exactly. Someone's got to
I make a motion to do exactly what Mayor has stated, moving 1 and 2 to 11 and 12 and shifting everything up by 2.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Luke. I have a second by Commissioner Emmerich. Anything to that, Ms. Luke?
No.
Emmerich?
Sound good.
Like to make another after we're done.
I would like to make a comment, and that is that maybe we need a more lengthy conversation on the process and when we do this.
In some of our upcoming workshops, not recently, some that are upcoming, because we will have 1, maybe 2. Maybe this can just be added as an instructional,
Yeah, yes,
thing to it.
something like that, yeah. That's,
sound good? Can I get a consensus
you know what I mean?
on that?
I
I have a solid consensus on, in one of our upcoming or future workshops, to just have a presentation or instruction on the process.
Process of this.
We'll set a workshop up so that,
Well, I don't want a special workshop set up for this.
I mean, on one of our upcoming workshops, like because obviously there's projects you all, certainly from what I'm hearing, wish that were on here that are not. So when we're trying to get the list together for next year's submission, we'll explain the process as well as an opportunity, again, for you guys to add any projects.
Sounds awesome.
Obviously, we thought we accomplished that with the March meeting, but there's some that you guys want added now,
I
and
don't even remember that March meeting. I gotta tell
Imagine
you.
that.
that,
What, that I don't remember it?
I can definitely imagine that.
can imagine
yeah, we'll get a workshop, and when we
Talking
ask
about
you
us
all for
changing
projects
things.
to add to next year's list, we'll also explain the whole process so that, everybody can understand it a little better.
Vice Mayor McDowell, you said you had something you wanted to say? That's all right. I'll wait for that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna see if we wanted to, is it kind of tied into that? I think we'll be fine because it tied into what we're gonna be doing with this workshop.
All right. Vote is cast. And that is passed unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on. General business item B, estimated construction cost price Boulevard widening project from Central Boulevard, Toledo, Blade Boulevard, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. You all had asked us back in July to get you some updated estimates on the construction costs of Price Boulevard widening from Sumter to Toledo Blade. That is what is presented here, and Ms. Belia here, so she can go over some of this as well. And we're still working on refining funding options. but I do have some information that I'll share with you on that as well, of what an option might cost on this.
Okay.
For the record, Juliana Belia, Public Works Director. During the regular commission meeting held on July the 10th of 2018, Commission had requested an update on the estimate of construction costs for the Price Boulevard widening from Sumter to Toledo Blade. We have received the 60% design plans for this project, including the engineer's estimated cost for construction. And recently on this past Friday, we actually met with the consulting engineer. The following is a breakdown of the construction cost estimate. Roadway construction is $12,100,000. Stormwater drainage, $4,530,000. Signalization, $755,000. Roadway lighting, $3,305,000. Utilities, $3,115,000. Mobilization, $1,825,000. And maintenance of traffic, $3,075,000. For a total estimated cost of $28,705,000. The engineer's cost estimate is based on acquisition of designated stormwater pond sites. If these stormwater pond sites are not acquired, other vacant lots will have to be evaluated for suitability. However, the number of vacant lots needed may increase the amount of piping and structures necessary for transporting the stormwater to alternate stormwater pond sites, which will increase both in quantity and cost. As for the project's design is further developed, the construction cost estimate will be refined as well. Other project costs will also include design and permitting at $3,351,270, land acquisition $2 million, and construction, engineering, and inspection at $4,310,000, for a total cost of $9,661,270. The current capital improvements program allocates $40,347,320,000 for the construction of Price widening. In addition, the city's financial consultant is currently, we've met with them. They are working on some of the funding options for the construction of this project. Are there any questions?
Vice Mayor?
Just for the record, does this estimate breakdown of the engineer's construction cost for the $28.7 million, does that include the 4 bridges and the signal mastheads at all 3 intersections?
Yeah, in fact, the bridges aren't really bridges. 3 of them are culvert pipes, large diameter culvert pipes that will be replaced. The 4th one is a U-shaped box culvert that will be extended on both sides to accommodate the widened roadway.
Okay, so I call them bridges because it's going over water.
Yes. No,
So that is included with whatever you guys call it, that transference of water underneath the roadway is included with this 28.7 million.
Yes, as well as the pole mast arm signal.
And the mast arms are also included?
Yes, ma'am.
So what, help me understand, because when I look at the MPO project applications that were submitted, how can Sumter be so low using the $28.7 million when there's 4 bridges and 3 intersections, when the MPO applications that were submitted were higher with less bridges and less intersections? So I'm trying to understand how this number was arrived at with more work being done and less cost.
So if I might understand the question, you're asking how could the original cost estimate, construction cost estimate for Price be different, be much lower now? No?
So right now.
You're talking about Sumter?
Price Boulevard from Sumter to Toledo Blade, based on this document that we have, is $28.7 million.
Yes, ma'am.
And that includes the 4 bridges and 3 intersections.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's another 9.6 million when you add in design.
I'm not even
land
going there.
acquisition.
Not yet.
Okay. Just want to make sure that that's included in the
The
total.
project from Sumter to the high school, the bus loop, which is 1.4 miles, and Sumter to Toledo Blade is about 2.8, 3 miles, something like that, has 0 intersections and 1 bridge, that would equal about $44.3 million. So I'm trying to understand how can Price Boulevard from Sumter and Toledo Blade be 28.7 when from Sumter to the high school is more money with less work.
Okay.
And if you want to take it a step further, looking at Toledo Blade to Panacea, which is about 2.7 miles, has 2 intersections, 0 bridges, and that's $35 million, based on the application that was submitted to MPO.
But
So
for-
I'm having a hard time with these
For the
numbers.
MPO applications, you include what is called the design,
That's
acquisition, is the whole enchilada. For this 28 million, it's just
Stop it.
the construction, the taco.
You know I'm not gonna say it.
So the $40 million that we put in the MPO for these sections, non-design has been done, so it probably includes some PD&E, some studies, environmental permitting, and the CEI, and the bridge over Myakkahatchee Creek. That bridge alone, that is a true 3-span bridge versus what Ben says is Culver extension. They're 2 different animals. And each section is, it has its own different design elements.
And those are very conservative
Ballpark
estimates
figure.
in the project funding applications. At this point on Price Boulevard between Sumter and Toledo Blade, we're at 60% design, so we have much more to work with as far as getting a more accurate cost.
But your conservative pricing that you put in with the application for Toledo Blade to Panacea, including the permitting and engineering, is $35 million. When you but it has 0 bridges and only 2 intersections.
It is wider too, though. I mean, we're dealing with only 100 feet versus 120 also going out east.
I'm just
And
trying
a
to,
longer segment as well.
from Toledo Blade to Panacea is longer than from Sumter to Toledo Blade? No, it's about the same distance.
Oh, I thought you were talking, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about Sumter to the high school.
My concern is these numbers may not even still be accurate based on your application numbers that you submitted to MPO. That is my concern.
Which numbers aren't accurate? The ones in the Toledo to Price? Or, I'm sorry, Toledo to Sumter, or which ones are you concerned aren't accurate?
The overall numbers. If you are using if you're using the $40 million, which includes permitting and engineering for Sumter to Toledo Blade, which is 3 intersections and 4 bridges for $40 million, how can from Toledo Blade to Panacea, which is the same length, be $35 million with 0 bridges and only 2 intersections? That is where my concern is.
Might need more land acquisition, might need more design.
And acquisition, forget it.
We need an explanation.
It's-
We don't need a motion on this, do we? This was just
No, it's just
letting us
information.
know. Appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do I have any public comment? Is that a public comment for this one?
I believe there was public
Sorry,
comment on
yes,
4B.
Taking it to the coffee.
Just happened to see it there. Okay, Ms. Fisher?
Thank you again, Nancy Fisher, North Step Street off of Price. I do want to point out that because there's no MPO financing for this section of Price between Sumter and Toledo Blade, it means that there's no MPO oversight, which has been referenced as hoops and delays, but it also means that they have no design oversight. There are some design shortcomings as far as the residents' perspective is concerned. There are also some cost savings in that there's no landscaping budget. If you notice, there's nothing there for landscaping. It's because there's really no room for trees or shrubs or anything else based on the design that was put through. So I guess you save some money there. I certainly hope there's some safety islands or some mid-block crossings with lights, because crossing 80 feet, oh, I'm sorry, it's 56 feet of active traffic. It's already a challenge to walk across the road now. There have been pedestrians been struck, people have been killed. And I don't cross the road, even at a crosswalk. You're taking your life in your hands. So it's going to be 56 feet of asphalt, 5 lanes of active traffic, 4 feet of paved utility strip, because I assume that the place where your mailboxes are going to go is going to be paved over for the convenience of the city not having to have any grass mowed there or anything else. So then there's going to be 20 feet of multi-use path. It's about 80 feet of pavement, concrete, asphalt, and that is going to heat up in the Florida sunshine. And that equals ugly, hot, noisy. There's no trees, no shrubs, no landscaping to cool the roadway. So it results in Northport's direct contribution to warming the planet. I mean, every time, these days, particularly with our extreme weather events, I think every time you undertake some major project like this where you're paving over green space, you really have to consider the impact it has through the lens of global climate change. And this is, you know, sure, it's only 3-mile stretch of road, but we're doing this, plus we're paving Alvy's Price, we're paving over Paradise. And we're not making any taking any mitigating action in this section of roadway to mitigate the effects on warming the roadway, warming this area of Northport, warming the planet, and just basically it's going to be ugly, noisy, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nancy.
Mr. Willis.
Justin Willis, Mongai Road. If we're going to spend the money, make it a main street. Just saying. But besides that, my real reason why I'm coming up here, Commissioner McDowell, I heard your question. Why is it more for the 2 sections that have not been planned for versus between Sumter and Toledo Blade? From what I heard him say, we've spent that money in the past planning for it. So it's taking into consideration the money we've already spent over the last 20 years. You add that in with the price that you're seeing today, and you have your full total of what we've spent out. So you're not taking into consideration, there's almost 20 years of planning that has been put into Price Boulevard, money that has been spent on plans that have been rejected, that we paid for. All of that money adds in. So what you're seeing is what it would take from today until the end of the project for them. It's not taking into consideration all the money we've already spent. That's why the other 2 sections are costing more than Price Boulevard on the paper you're seeing now. Does that make it?
Thank you.
Did that answer it? No. Okay.
Wonderful. That would be the last item, so meeting adjourned.
God, we got 2 more days.
This is for the water control.
Okay.
Recommendation.
No problem.
Join me.
Yep. Hit refresh.
How am I going to get my candy now?
Justin.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just loading. It's just spinning on me. It's just spinning.
You gotta go backwards.
Now I'm getting network error again.
I'm loading slowly.
Okay. I didn't even know we were in the fire.
You guys don't want to hang out with me tonight?
Hit fire next up here.
Yep, it just comes across.
Okay.
You ready? All right, good afternoon again. Today is Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. It is 5:10 p.m. We are in the city chambers, and I call Fire Rescue District regular meeting to order. Those present are Deputy City Clerk Heather Taylor, City Clerk Katie Pito, Commissioner Jill Luke, Vice Mayor Debbie McDowell, myself, Chris Hanks, I've got Commissioner Vanessa Carasone, Commissioner Pete Emrich, City Attorney Amber Slayton, City Manager Pete Lear, Police Chief of the city, Garrison, and then Chief Titus back there in the back. So we did a moment of silence. We did our Pledge of Allegiance. So if I can get an approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Carasone. Take a vote. Do not see any public comment. That was passed unanimously. No public comment. Moving on to consent agenda. I have a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
And with a second by,
Know what happened to that? I pushed that motion twice.
motion on the, motion by Vanessa Carasone, Commissioner Carasone, seconded by Commissioner Luke. Let's take a vote, unless somebody wants to say something to that. And that passes unanimously. Meeting adjourned. You're fast. That's not like you were.
Ricochet rabbit.
Choo, choo, choo.
Watch out for them squirrels.
Ricochet rabbit.
Oh.
All right.
So now you're gonna
Oh,
back
so now we gotta
in.
go back again.
Yeah, then you hit that middle part like I showed you.
Yeah, I got it.
All the way. I'm already in the
It's at one time.
All right, we're all good. Are you all ready?
I'm ready.
Let me make sure I'm ready here. Welcome again. Today is Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. It is 5:12 p.m. We're in the city chambers, and I call the Solid Waste District regular meeting to order. Present again, our Deputy City Clerk, Heather Taylor. Now I'm having an easy time with the names, but not the titles. City Clerk, Katie Pito, Commissioner Luke, Vice Mayor Carasone, Mayor Hanks. Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor McDowell, and myself, Commissioner. Yeah, I guess I could do that.
Cheat sheet, does he?
But I demand that cheat sheet.
Squirrel is
Because it
on
doesn't
the
use
loose.
it.
Commissioner Emrich.
That's because that quadrant
City-
he sits in.
City Attorney Slayton, City Manager Lear, Chief Police Garrison, Fire Chief Titus. Make sure you put your phones on silent.
Now he reads
So
it.
the defective requests are right here. You get them right up there by the police officer here. And we've already had a moment of silence, Pledge of Allegiance, so I'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I got that by
Second.
Commissioner Carasone. Moved it. I'm going to give that one to you.
Thank you.
And seconded by Vice Mayor. Can I take the vote, please?
Oh, it's gonna be a long night.
Well, I hope not. That was approved unanimously. No public comments. Moving on to consent agenda.
Is there any
Is there anybody who wants to pull anything here, or do I have a motion to approve?
proof?
Second.
I've got a motion on the floor by Vanessa Carasone, Commissioner Carasone, to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Vice Mayor McDowell. Call the vote. That was approved unanimously. I'm going to wait for the commission communications and all of that after the next meeting, so meeting adjourned.
Good job.